Okay, done. So as I mentioned, right? So today we are going to be covering one of the important topic, and we can call it as a daily use concept. So that means whenever you are writing any project or any program or any application, whatever you are writing in any language, without this exception handling, we never write any code in the real-time projects. Okay, because it's very important. So why it is important and how it will be implemented, we'll see one by one. Okay. So first of all, we require to understand the difference between exception and error. Okay, 1 second, Anna. I'm getting call. Yeah, see, basically in any programs we have two types of topics. So one is errors, another one is exceptions. Okay, so these are the common words we may have, but there is a lot of difference between these two words. Okay, so what do you mean by errors? Are generally errors are permanent. I can say that our errors are the mistakes which did by the developer, I can say that. Okay, so that means whatever the syntactical errors or structural errors, or I can say that spelling mistakes, so these are all will belongs to errors. Why? Because that mistakes we cannot skip, or we cannot overwrite, or we cannot omit them. We have to fix them, or we need to correct them to continue the execution or to continue the project or program. So you know, right? Like for example, we did a spelling mistake. So system does not understand what you written because that is not aware of the spelling what you written. Similarly, I'm telling that whatever you did the wrong, system does not correct it automatically because that does not aware. You are whether intentionally did the mistake or whether you are like unintentionally did the mistake. That system does not aware. So the system only will show that what is the error, but it does not skip or it does not correct the error what you made on the code. So that's why errors, if we cannot skip, we have to fix them. I mean to say we have to correct them to run our program. So these are we call errors. So errors mostly caused due to our developer mistakes only, our mistakes only. It's not like user mistakes. It's not like code mistake. It's purely our errors or our while we are writing the code, we did something wrong. That is because of that it may given some errors in the application. So that's why we call these are errors. So, but basically, as I mentioned, these errors will come due to syntax mistakes and spelling mistakes, alignments, and structure like brackets, that all. So, due to this will come, and as I mentioned, we cannot skip them. We cannot skip these errors. So, have to fix them. So we have to fix them. Okay. So to continue the execution. Now coming to the second category, exceptions. But sometimes we didn't do any mistake in our application, or we didn't make any spelling mistakes or any kind of errors in the code. But though you will get some errors at the time of execution. Okay. So sometimes the errors are coming at the time of execution due to some reasons, like maybe invalid input was given by the customer, or improper handling of the input what user is given, or I can say that like some kind of data which is not really there but you are trying to access. Like example, you see you are trying to access the files but the file is not available, or you are trying to load some database but the database is not available. Such kind of errors. So while you're writing the code or while you're compiling the code, we can't predict the system until unless you're executing, it cannot understand. So that is what we call runtime errors, because at the time of executions only we can know that there is a kind of error or there is a kind of problem with respect to our code. So that is only technically called as exceptions. So exceptions means so exceptions means the errors which are occurred at the time of execution due to some logical mistakes. So these errors will come at the time of execution due to logical mistakes, not the code mistakes. I hope you understand. Okay, the major advantage of exceptions is that the exception handling or the language support is we can skip these exceptions to continue the flow. Means because of exceptions you don't require to stop the program, you don't require to rerun the program, but you can skip the respect to exception to continue the other program, or else you can give a second chance to user to rectify that exception. Okay, so such kind of provision we have in every programming language like Java, .NET or Python. Okay, so that handling only we call exception handling. So the mechanism of, or I can say that the process of, okay, or the process of handling the exceptions to continue the flow, so called as exception handling. So this is technically called as exception handling. So for this only we will use try, except, else, finally blocks. So these are the 4 blocks generally will use. So these are the 4 blocks which commonly we use to handle the exceptions in runtime. Okay, so by using these blocks only we can try to handle the problems or exceptions which are coming at the time of execution in the code. Okay, so I will give you some of the examples of exceptions. Okay, so errors means straight away I already given some of the spellings. If you did the spelling, that is called error only, we can't write. But exceptions, like example, so you are asking customer to that enter the number you are asking. Okay, enter the number. Assume that user not given number, but unfortunately he given string. Now what system will do? You are expecting a number from the keyboard from the user, but the user is given string. So the system does not capable of converting the string to a number, so it is throwing an exception. Now instead of stopping the program, you can inform him, okay, you entered string, but we are expecting number, please try again. So that is what we call exception handling. See, if you are not doing the exception handling, it will stop the flow. But if you are handling that, it will re-ask again, and you can continue the execution. One of the example. Second example, let's take example. You are trying to open the file. Okay, open the file called, assume that, open the file called hello.txt. Okay, assume that. But unfortunately that hello.txt is not available. That file is not there. So now the system is trying to open the file at your location, but we don't have that file, right? So now the system is throwing an exception called, we are not able to finding the file you specified. Please either change the file name or give the correct path. So likewise, we have to the error will come and we have to handle that. So these are some of the examples for exceptions. Generally, we get into the system executions. Okay. So likewise, whatever the exceptions you are getting at the time of execution or at the time of running of the program, so that we can handle using the blocks called try except. So simple. If you return the try except, you may get a opportunity to revalidate the same thing. Like example, user did the mistake, you can ask him to retry again, or you can ask him to change the whatever the input he given, like that. But if you're not writing the try except, as like errors, it also stops the execution. See, if you are handling the exceptions only, we can able to continue the flow. Otherwise, it also will stop as like errors. There is no doubt at all. But only difference, exceptions you can identify after execution only. You cannot identify while you are writing the code. But errors can identify while you are writing the code itself. You don't wait for execution. Okay. So that is the one of the major difference. You can understand errors and exceptions. So any doubt as of now, please ask me. Otherwise, just go through the points, whatever I written. So we'll go for some practical demonstration so that you can easily understand what I'm explaining. Okay. Just to go through the points. If you have any doubts or any point, ask me. So I hope no one has any doubts. I'm going for execution now. Okay, see here. So let's take, I will take a simple example. Okay, so let's take, I'm writing a equal to, okay, int of input of, okay, so enter value. Okay, similarly I'm writing b is equal to int of input of, okay, enter b value. And now I'm writing, let's take c is equal to, I'm writing a by b. Okay, and now I'm writing print c is equal to comma c, and then finally I'm printing it's done. Okay, so this is the code what I'm having. But if you observe my code, okay, so it's a anyway notepad, it doesn't show that the red mouse, but anyway we are using IDE. So if you're able to see in the 1 2 3 4, you are able to see the red marks, red underline, some lines, right? So that shows that you have a errors in the program. Okay, it's not exception, it's an error. So that is the basic difference between error and exception. Exception does not show like this, it will cleanly showing the code, but error, it will straight away show that the whatever the red lines. So whenever you found red line in your code, that means you have an error in the code, you cannot execute. Though you are trying to execute this program, there is no use because it does not execute. Obviously it will show in errors, whatever the errors we have. See that. Any doubts as of now? Please be active in this class, because here point to point I will go. So if you are not able to understand, please ask me. So here, if you're able to see, whatever the code we have errors is showing already, these are we called errors, because while we are writing only we are able to identify them. So that's why we call these are errors, not exceptions. Okay, next point, even though you are trying to execute, it does not see stop the execution, it's not moving to the code what we written. So like example, if you see line number 5, there is no error, it's done, it's a very clean code, but though you are not able to getting the output because of the before we have errors. Okay, and one more very important, this execution proves that Python is purely interpreter language. See, even though we have 4 errors, we are able to see with our eye in the program, but the system while executing, it is showing only 1 error. It's not showing other errors, because Python, once the first line executed successfully, then only it will go for second line. If it is having the error in the first line itself, it does not even move to the second line. That is very clean and straightforward. So that's why until if it's, let's take example here, I forgot to add the bracket. So now I'm adding the bracket. So now you see the error is gone. So now if we execute that, you will see the third line. See that C equal to A by B, we got unexpected indent. Means actually we didn't write any block, right? If condition of for loop. So everything in the same alignment. But intentionally given on tab space. So that's why it's going unexpected indent. So that means you given extra indent, remove that. Now I'm removing. Okay. Now you see that error gone. Likewise, once everything cleaned in the code, then only you are able to see the output. Otherwise, it won't go for execution. In the same way, if you are executing, I mean that if you are facing the issue in the first line, it won't go for second line. Once you fix the error in the first line, then only it will go for second line. Now let's take, I'm giving 4 and 6, 4 by 6. Obviously 0 point something is coming and it's done. Similarly, if I'm giving, let's take 10 and enter 2. So 10 by 2, 5.0, because we are giving a single by, let's give it the float value. But see, it's executed now. So it means that there is no syntactical errors in the code. There is no errors in the code. So I'm not sure about the exception, but there is pretty sure I can give the guarantee that there is no errors because your code is executing. Okay. So in this program now there is no error and clear, the code is clear. So that's why we are able to execute the end-to-end output. So does anyone have any doubt till the point? Please ask me if you have any doubts. Don't be silent. Any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay, great. Okay. Maybe if you are not asking the questions means, as per my understanding, two of the reasons. Either first reason, you understood everything. Second reason, you didn't understand anything. So maybe in which I mean that line set, whether you have to decide. I'm not sure because I cannot scan your faces. But my point is, I'm taking positive feedback, so you are able to understand it. But really, if someone not really understand, please ask me. I will explain. If you're not, feel free to ask in the here in the group. You can ping me personally also. I'm not feeling any uncomfortable. Okay, yeah, come back to the point. Now you see I'm running the same program, but I will give you, now there is a small twist. Okay, now enter a value is there. Now I'm giving gt. So what do you mean by gt? It's a string, but what it is expecting value. So now you see what happened. Though your code is correct, though there is no errors in the program, but you are getting now error in the our output. See that. What is that? Invalid literal for integer. Because here in this program, I'm expecting the integer, not the string. But the customer is given string. That is unfortunate. I'm not aware of that. So I'm expecting he will give an integer, but unfortunately given a string. His mistake. It's not my mistake. As a code, I don't have that problem. But he given wrong input. That's why it's showing an exception. So this is we call exception, not the error, because it's not code mistake. It's a user input mistake. But it's a okay. We can agree with that. Okay, it's not our code mistake. It's a user mistake. But ultimately, who is the customer? He is the customer, right? He is paying the money, right? So when he given like this, instead of stopping the program, instead of shut down the program, you have to tell them, okay, you entered a string. Please don't enter the string. Please enter only integer. Try give one more chance. Why we have to stop the program? Because if you do like that, he will do that only. Okay, let it be. Let it not intentionally. Maybe by mistake I given the some wrong input. So in that case, if system shut down, what is the use of purchasing that huge mission by paying some money? You have to take care, right? If I did some mistake as a customer, you should warn me. Like, if you should not do that, you have to try with other. But you cannot stop me immediately, right? So that is user expectation, general in real time. So for that only, we have to do the exception handling. Okay. So now to overcome these sort of problems. So like example, I will give you one more example in the same example. Let's say I'm giving 5 and 0. So 5 by 0. So you people know that something by 0 we can't define, say infinity. See, again you got an error, a by b, division by 0. So these sort of issues we can't predict by the customer. We can't predict by the inputs what they given. It's always unpredictable. So our code should support whether he given wrong or right. Accordingly, we should display the output. If we given wrong input, that is what technically we call in computer terminology GIGO, garbage input, garbage output. Means if we are given the wrong input, we have to show them some warning message. If we given the right input, we have to show the output. But we should not stop our execution, or we should not shut down our system. Always we have to give service to the customer. So that is the idea behind this particular exception handling. Now I will convert the code in such a way that I will give a chance to him for whenever he did a mistake. Like, see. So now whenever you want to write any code with the proper exception handling, put that entire code in the try block. That's a very simple approach. Okay, put entire code whatever you written in the try block. Very simple point. Okay, so whatever the code you written, straight away put in the try block. Okay, so now, and one more point I forgot to tell you. See, because of the mistake in the line number 4, there is no error in the line number 6 and 5, but though you are stopping the execution. Okay, so that also we can overcome using this. Okay, anyway, come back to the point. So now whenever you are getting any issue in the code like this kind of exceptions, put that entire code in the try and write a block called except. So try is a block where your actual code will be written, the actual code. Now except is a block which is always we should write mandatorily along with the try. It's a mandatory block. Why we are writing certain except block is used to handle your exception. Like example, when you're getting some problem, when you're getting some issue at the runtime, what should happen? Whether you want to print something, or whether you want to rerun the code, or whether you want to throw a warning to the customer, what you want to do at the time of exception came, that code we are writing in the except block basically. So except, I'm writing exception as E, assume that. So here exception is a class and E is a reference. Now I'm simply printing, just I'm printing. Let's take str of E. I'm not reiterating that, just I'm printing what is the issue. And whatever the print it's done, see, C value definitely we will get only until unless these 3 lines executed. There is no doubt, right? Once these 3 lines executed properly, then only we'll get the C value. But what about the 6th line? It is not required, right? See, irrespective of the other above 4 lines, it has to execute because it doesn't have any logical interpretation. We can execute all the time. So put this in there is a block called final. Okay, so finally is an additional block. It's not mandatory. You can write, you may not write, but it is an optional. But the advantage of writing finally block is it will execute all the time. Whether you're getting error, whether you're not getting error, doesn't matter. It always executes. So now I'm running the same program. You see here, you can understand. Now I'm giving 5 and 2. So 5 by 2, C value 2.5, and it's done KMC there. But you're not getting any error because you don't see any error. Now the same program I'm giving as, let's take some P given. See, value P given. Instead of like showing a red color message, now you see you're getting a regular message like invalid for int with base 10. See that? And now it's done also KMC that it is not stopping the code, it's still executing. Initially, if you observe that whenever you got a red color message, the it's done message you didn't get because by that the program over, that's terminated. But now if you observe, even though we got an error, but though the program does not stop, still it remains executed for other lines also. So that is the beauty of the exception handling mechanism. That is the beauty of the try except blocks. So did you people understand what I'm trying to explain? So what is the ultimate solution for exception handling is put entire all the code in the try block. To the try, you should add except block to handle your exception basically. So any doubt as of now? Clear everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now whatever the try except try, we have different approaches also, like one try, one except you can write just before I told you, just before I show you, right? Like that. And one try with multiple excepts also you can write as per your requirement, except 1 and except 2, like that you can write. Okay. And multiple try, multiple excepts also in single program you can write. So it all depends on your requirement, but there is no limitation how you want to write it. Okay, so one try, one except, one try with multiple excepts, and multiple try except blocks also you can write in a single program. Okay, so these are the different signatures which is supported by try except blocks in the Python. Okay, so now likewise we can even enhance the code for other versions also. We'll see one by one, we'll see. But before that, if you feel any doubt or any what do you call confusion, please ask me, otherwise I'll continue the next point. Okay, clear. So now the same program I'm extending, like see here inbuilt messages coming, like the system given message. So no, I don't want like that. I want to give my own messages. Now in that case, for finally blocks are, what is the question? Can you repeat or can you tell me the what do you call, someone is given some message. I'm unable to see that. Can anyone speak up? For finally, the question is incomplete. How many finally block can we use? Only one finally block. Final block is always only one for one try except. Okay, yeah. So now with all that blocks, I'm executing one more time. Okay. So there is a else block also in the exceptions. How it will execute, we'll see. Let's take exception demo 2 I'm taking. Okay. So let's take try. Okay. Let's take a is equal to input of enter value. Now I'm taking simply print a equal to comma a, and now accept accept exception as e. Now print e And after that, there is a block called else. This is also optional block, okay, as like finally, but else will execute when except does not execute, okay. So else block and finally block. Okay, yeah. So these are the 4 blocks we have generally in the try except, but here try except are mandatory and else and finally will optional. But you should remember finally will execute all the time, but else will execute only when there is no exception. I can say that. That means when only try executes. So I will show you that also. Like you can see, let's take enter value. I'm giving 5. So that means there is no issue. So now enter b value. Oh, sorry, we are executing still the old program. Go into the new program. Yeah, so enter value 5, so there is no issue. So a equal to 5 came, see that else block came and finally block came, if you observe that. Okay, now I'm executing the same program with some mistake. Let's take enter value, I'm giving text. So now you see invalid literal came and finally came, else block does not came, see that. So that means else will only execute when try executes. When except execute, it only execute finally, does not touch the else block. Okay, so this is the structure explanation. I can say that what will execute at what time. Okay, and now as I mentioned to the previous program, here in this case, if whatever the error showing, it's a by default error coming, like that means the system names, but if I want to display my own messages, I can go with multiple exceptions. So instead of exception, you can give value error. Okay, so value error means, but you should know the names of the errors to display the specific names. Okay, instead of printing the e, you can simply write print please enter only integers. Likewise, you can write your own messages. Now I'm writing except, let's take zero division error as e. Now print please don't enter b as 0. Okay, so likewise you can write your own messages by defining the multiple exceptions in the same program. Okay, so now you see if I'm giving everything fair about, so yes, it is executed, there is no issue in that. Let's take, if I'm giving, let's take I value. Now you see please enter only integers, because the right messages, you can, customer can easily understand what is his mistake. Okay, and also like you can give something like 9 and 0. Now you see please don't enter as a b as a 0, it's done, see that. So this kind of this I mean to say the message, if you want to give your own, yes, we can do this. So this is the approach of exception handling. Okay, so any doubts as of now? Any doubts? Okay, the next point is, now what happened, see if you are giving wrong values, it is showing an error message and it's stopping the execution, but it's not repeating. But let's take example, you want to give one more chance to the customer. Now how to do so means we have to go with while loop. So while, we have to put it as a true. While true means it repeats the entire code in the infinite loop. Okay, whatever the code we are writing, it will repeat n number of times. Let's take example, if we executed fair enough, then you don't want to run again, right? So simply you can write break. Now the code will be terminated immediately. I'm removing this, not required for me. Okay, now you see, if not, it will repeat the code like house are. You see, simple line, one line, you can achieve the whatever we want. Let's take example 7 and let's take, I'm giving 3. So 7 by 3, 2 point something is stopping the execution. See, stopped. Let's take, we did the some mistake. Let's take, I'm giving some j. Now you see, please enter only integers. Again, it's asking enter value. Let's take, I'm giving 7 and 0 I'm giving. Now you see, please don't enter b as 0, enter value. Again, it's asking. Let's take 8 and 3. Let's take. Now you are getting output and stopping. See this. Simple. See this. So this is what we are expecting in real time. Like this, sometimes we are writing like whenever like ATM, best example, you are entering the invalid pin, it will ask once again try for the valid pin. Like that, if it is asking 3 times, right? Otherwise it will block your code. Like that also we can enhance our code. Like if you want a number of times, we can add number of times also. Instead of while true, we can give the while n less than or equal to 3, like that. How many times you want to repeat the code, that means we can give chance to the customer to run the same code like this in mistake. Now in this case, how many while true means any number of times we are giving chance to customer to do the mistake and he can repeat the code. But if you want to limit to the count, yes, we can do that also. So this is all about your exception handling. So does anyone have any doubt in this? But so by this very simple conclusion of this class is, whenever you're writing any program in real time from today onward, you should put into the try catch blocks, try except blocks. Whatever the main code you are writing, put it into the try block, and end of the code you can write except. If you know the proper name of the error, you can mention the exception name, like example value error, zero division error, like that. If you don't know the name exactly, you can put it as an exception. So exception is a super class for all the errors. So it will take care about all the errors, whatever we are getting in the runtime. So any doubt as of now? So there is a topic called custom exceptions. That means, see, these value error, zero division error, these are all predefined errors. That means already system defined. But if you want to give your own name as error name, like example, instead of value error, you want to put as a my error or my class error, something like that, example. So yes, without final block can be run the code. Yes, I ran the code, right? So final is optional, not mandatory. But try except mandatory. If you remove this except block, you will get an error. See, like you're getting error after the break, you are showing error. Okay, so but finally doesn't make any problem. Finally and else also, these two are optional. As I mentioned in the previous class, the last two blocks are optional blocks. These are, if you want, you can write, otherwise you can leave it or neglect it. But try except mandate. So someone asked the question for that. As a point again, so we have a topical custom exceptions also. So instead of using an inbuilt exception, we can use our own exceptions also. But for that, we should do some kind of inheritance topic. So that I didn't cover, right? So after oops concept, I will come back to custom exception. I will explain. Okay, because we have to inherit to the parent class and we have to override some methods. That all will explain at that time. Right now, I'm not touching that. But remember, as like predefined errors, we can also create our own exception classes. So that is technically called as custom exceptions. So custom exceptions means our own exceptions we can create ourselves. And to execute custom exceptions, basically we use a keyword called rise keyword. Rise means conditionally you can throw the exception instead of waiting to system to throw the exception. Okay, like example, if you consider here itself. Okay, so if b equal to 0, so you know if b is 0, we can't run the code. So simply instead of waiting to system to throw, you can throw yourself. Rise, what is the error you are getting? B equal to 0 means zero division error, right? You can throw like, else you can write print, else it's equal to a baby. Sorry, else you can print the value, because in else only we will get the output like this. So likewise, we can use the rise keyword. So rise is a keyword in Python which is used to throw exceptional from our side only, and instead of waiting to system to detect what type of exception it is and to throw it to the except block, you can throw yourself. Like in a simple example I will give you now. See, if you written the examination, okay, you are waiting for the result, but internally you know you didn't written well, but externally you never tell that. Maybe it may pass, it may not pass based on the correction, right? But if someone is not even attending the exam, so for him there is no choice. It is always fail only because absent, right? So likewise. So sometimes if you know the error, you can throw it directly instead of waiting system to throw the error. But sometimes it's a 50-50. I'm not sure whether it is there or not. Then you can go with system option only instead of you are throwing the exception. So this is all about exceptions in Python. Exceptions and exception handling in the Python. Okay. So does anyone have any doubt? Please ask me. Otherwise, we'll stop the class for today, and tomorrow I'm continuing the file handling concept. Any doubt? Okay. If no, we are good to close the class. And as I mentioned, right, if you are having any doubts or anything, you can ask me at any time also. Okay. Bye bye.